You're watching the Wellness Hour, news that makes you healthier. I'm Randy Alvarez. With us today, we have the founder of Bastyr University, Dr. Joseph Pizzorno. Dr. Pizzorno, welcome to the program.
Thanks for being with you today.
Now, for people that don't know, and you wrote a book, The Toxic Solution. We'll talk about that, who should read it. For people that don't know Bastyr, because people are always calling me or emailing me, I should say, you know, how do I find a doctor? Who should I look for? And I always refer them to a good, licensed, accredited naturopathic physician.
Great.
For people that don't know Bastyr, tell us about it.
Well, I started Bastyr in 1978, and with a very clear vision of science-based natural medicine, because I believe there was a lot of unnecessary suffering in the world because this body of knowledge that we call natural medicine was not being recognized or utilized appropriately. So I started Bastyr with a science perspective. And so what that means, what does it mean to be a naturopathic doctor? It means that we teach people to become doctors who help patients understand why they're sick and how to become healthy. And why are people sick? Because of nutritional deficiencies and because of environmental toxins. And we become healthy is by getting the toxins out and getting the nutrients in. Now, it's easy to say, but to do that according to unique needs of each individual now requires 4 years of medical school education.
Okay, so these Bastyr universities are spread out throughout the U.S. Where are they?
Well, there are a number of naturopathic colleges throughout North America. Bastyr University, the main campus is in Seattle, Washington. We have a branch campus here in California, and we're just opening a branch campus in Austin, Texas.
Now, these are real physicians. I mean, they can prescribe medications, things like that, even though they're trying to stay away from traditional medications. Is that right? And if they go to Bastyr, your website, can they? Is there any type of physician locator?
Yes, so it'll tell you where our graduates are if you put in your zip code, tell who's closest to you.
Okay, good. And you say in your book that that people are suffering from a lot of unnecessary illnesses. Elaborate on that.
Well, so when I look at the diseases people suffer now and compared the incidence now to 50 years ago when I was in school, many of them are much more common. You know, diabetes is 10 to 20 times more common. Alzheimer's disease is more common. We have this non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, didn't even exist before. Kidney failure was rare, and now you see dialysis centers all over the place. So what's happened? And what's happened is that not only has our food supply becoming ever more depleted in nutrients, like you look at the copper content of vegetables, for example. Well, it's 75% lower now than it was 50 years ago. So the foods are being depleted, but also the foods now have added to them all these toxicants. So things like persistent organic pollutants like organophosphate pesticides, organochlorine pesticides, or cadmium, things like this. And what those things do is that they poison our systems, poison our physiological systems.
And they build up?
Yeah, so a lot of people will say, and a lot of researchers will say, well, it's only a very small amount. Well, if it was only a very small amount of one toxin we're being exposed to, okay. But there are 75 toxins that we're exposed to at high enough dosages that not only do they individually have an effect, but cumulatively they have a huge effect. So while people think, well, as you get older, you get more disease, no, that may be normal, but that's not what's necessary. We get more disease as we get older because of cumulative damage to our DNA and building up of these toxins in our body because they're so hard to get rid of.
So the challenge today with any detox program, that, just so I understand this correctly, that let's say a 40-year-old, okay, so from 40 until 50, that's 10 years, 365 days of eating things, whether it's soy or drinking out of plastic bottles, that are just accumulating. And where are they accumulating?
So it depends on the toxin. In general, most of the chemicals accumulate in the fat tissue, and whereas most of the metals tend to accumulate in either the bone or the kidneys.
Okay. So have you seen that when you take people off of these known toxins, that across the board they get better, they think better, they have more energy, their thyroid gets better, etc.?
How many case histories do you want? I've seen this a lot. Now, the big challenge people have to realize is that when you go to a conventional medical doctor, they give you a drug and your symptoms will alleviate within hours to days, okay? Quick response. If you take a strictly nutritional approach and giving people nutrients that they need, well, they're going to respond, but it may take weeks to months. Well, when you're trying to get toxins out of the body, some of these toxins have half-lives in the body ranging from months to decades. It takes longer to get them out. It takes time to get them out. First off, you have to stop letting them in. Then you got to get them out. Now you've got to repair all the systems in the body that were damaged by the toxins, and now you're going to start seeing improved health. So once you go on a detox program, the first couple of weeks you'll notice a difference because you're avoiding everyday toxins. But to get the biggest advantage, it may take months to even, one of my patients I mentioned in the book took 1.5 years to get all the toxins out of her body. But got all the toxins out of her body and she no longer had Alzheimer's disease. And it has huge impact on people.
So there are tests that you take before, tests that you take after to prove that they are detoxifying.
Yes, I'm a great believer in testing.
Okay.
So for example, metals. And so I do what's called challenge testing for metals, and to look at mainly how much cadmium, mercury, and lead is in a person's body. Then I put them on a detox program, and after 6 months, I do it again to make sure that my program is working. And if it's not working, either they're getting exposed to something, or I need to do something that's going to work better for them. So I'm a great believer. I'm a great believer in natural medicine, but I'm also a great believer in science because you've got to objectively measure what's going on. I'll give you an example of a patient that drove me crazy. So he had a bunch of neurological symptoms. I tested him. He had high mercury levels. Okay. Well, I put on my standard mercury detox program that I've used on hundreds of people.
That's in the book.
It's in the book. Put on a standard program, and his mercury levels weren't going down. So what's going on? Yeah, I checked. Well, did you stop eating fish? Yeah. Did you get all the silver fillings out of your mouth? Yes. And then he still had mercury. So I said, well, let's tweak it a little bit, make it a little stronger. Put a little stronger, test him again 3 months later, still had mercury. I said, okay, I want to know everything that's going into your body. We had this Chinese herb that he was taking, and the Chinese herb turned out to be high in mercury. So I had him stop taking that Chinese herb, and his mercury levels went away. It's like you have to figure out where it's coming from, and even if it's natural, doesn't mean it wasn't contaminated somewhere along the line.
So when his mercury levels went away, what happened to him?
Oh, everything cleared up.
Everything like what? What were his symptoms?
Well, his was mainly neurological. So brain fog. He was a very successful businessman. He wasn't doing as well in business. He was thinking about selling his business and said, okay, I've made my money. I can't do this anymore. He went off and started a new business, very successful business.
Okay, good.
Just get rid of the garbage. So on my website, the toxinsolution.com, I give people a bunch of tools that they can use to determine what toxins they're being exposed to, and then ways to get those toxins out. So I really like objective things. So here's a questionnaire, or here's labs I recommend for measuring your toxin level. Here's products I recommend. I don't have a relationship with them, but here's the products that are safe, that don't have toxic contamination. If you want to buy dietary supplements, which I think are a really good idea and really important for detoxification, well, here's the website you go to that ranks all the products according to their quality.
And you have an app that you recommend that you can take a picture of the barcode and it tells you what the toxins are in there?
Yes, so there's an app called Think Dirty. I have no relationship with them whatsoever. Matter of fact, I sent their owner, their founder, an email and she hasn't gotten back to me. So just in case you're watching. Anyway, so you take a little picture of your healthy beauty aid and it'll tell you what's in it. And you'll be surprised. One medical doctor who was interviewing me, in preparation for the interview, he and his wife went through their house and they found 80% of the health and beauty aids had high levels of toxins. They were just shocked by what they found.
So you mentioned men and women that are putting on lotions, things like that. Like I have a soybean allergy. So I was looking at the lotions that I'm using just for moisturize my arms and things, and they have soybean oil.
Yes.
So these are the kind of things that can leak into your body
and
cause a problem.
They have phthalates in them. There's even some lipsticks that still have lead in them. I mean, there's just all these chemicals.
Is that all in your book? I mean, what recommendations of topicals that you can use that are cleaner? I haven't read the whole book.
Yes. I say, there are a number of products that are made by good quality companies. I can't cover everybody, but I said, this is what we're doing. This is what we've done. We test ourselves, and we have found some chemicals that we didn't know we were being exposed to. So we're in the process of tracking them down and see where they're coming from.
Now, and we're short on time, but in the last 18 years, you founded Bastyr University.
Well, Bastyr I founded in 78. So
in 78?
Yeah, about 40 years, right?
Yeah, 40 years. What do you know now so much better than you knew back then, as far as helping people?
So let me tell the story that I said to students in class last month. I said, when I was in your seat 50 years ago, I kind of had to take this all on faith. I mean, the idea of eating real food and avoiding toxins and exercising, having loving relationships, it kind of made sense, but there wasn't much research support for it. Now we're half a century later, tons of research support for it, but also I look at my own personal life. So I'm an avid basketball player. So I play basketball 3 times a week, full court, with guys half my age, okay? And I'll tell you that the guys I'm playing with aren't the same guys. This game's been going now for over 30 years. none of the same people are there, because all people my age group, they're all gone. I noticed that most guys, by the time they hit about age 50, the bodies are broken down so much they can't keep playing basketball as much as they love it. Well, they're tired, but their mitochondria are damaged, their joints are damaged, they're full of toxins, their body breaks down. But not only that, so I'll turn 70 this year, and I've been noticing so many of my family and friends, they're dead now. And not only are they dead, but if they're not dead, they have major disease, or they're so debilitated that life for them is sitting at home watching TV. And I'm out motorcycle touring all over the world, typically on the wrong side of the road with my wife on back, enjoying life. It's like, how come I'm having this great life and they're done? Well, I paid a lot of attention to my nutrition, and I paid a lot of attention to avoiding the toxins, so I'm just a lot healthier. And that's how everybody should be, a lot healthier. Now, just in case something bad happens to me, everybody's going to die from something, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like we can prevent anything bad happening, but what we can do is dramatically improve our probabilities. So I'm much less likely to get cancer and heart disease and Alzheimer's and things like that than the average person my age, because I've been taking care of myself.
Okay, good. Now, so the Toxic Solution, who should read it? I mean, who when you write a book like this, like, is it different categories of people?
Everybody, please.
Okay.
Everybody is being poisoned. Now, I lecture literally all over the world. That's when I do my motorcycle touring. Somebody pays me to go to, I'm going to be lecturing in London in June, so I'm going to go early and motorcycle tour in Norway. Okay, so everywhere I go, I look at the research in that country. And I look at I've been in New Zealand and Australia and Norway and Sweden and London, and everywhere I look, they're all having the toxic problem. So everybody, we've got to stop the toxins. And not only that, but we've got to do this together to tell the manufacturers, no, we don't want to live in a cave somewhere. We want your products, but make the products so they stop poisoning us, okay? And they can do that.
Now, for example, with me, I drink out of plastic bottles.
Yeah.
My co-host, Krista Recchio, by the way, if you want to see some great interviews with Dr. Joe here, go on the Randy and Krista show and look at her interviews where she really goes in deep with detoxification. But I can't help but think, right? Krista says I got to stop these plastic bottles. I'm thinking there's such a little amount of these problems. If this is the least of my worries, but I guess it is.
So if that's all,
problem.
If that's all it was, you're okay. But there are 75 toxins we're being exposed to at various levels, and they build up. And what happens is, the more toxic exposure you have, now the more we have to use molecules that protect us in the body to protect us from those toxins. Well, we have a limited ability to produce these protective molecules, like glutathione being a clinical example. So the more toxins you're exposed to, the more you deplete your glutathione, and now you're less able to get rid of the toxins, but you're also less able to protect yourselves from the toxins. Now you get more DNA damage. And when do you die? You die when all your DNA is damaged. You know, all your DNA is so broken, can't keep you alive anymore.
So this could be robbing me, a plastic bottle could be robbing me, or affecting my thyroid, my ability to lose weight,
yes,
think clearly,
yes,
libido, everything.
Yes, and not only that, but
because let's say I've been drinking out of plastic bottles since they invented them.
Okay.
So if I stop doing it, which I think today is my day.
All right.
You know.
So, but and remember, it's not just that we're being exposed to the toxins, but the enzyme systems we need to protect us from the toxins, the nutrients those enzyme systems need, they're not in the foods anymore. They're just, our foods are so depleted of nutrition that our physiology can't work the way it's supposed to.
Okay. Now, big popular books right now, they call it biohacking, hacking. I call it a cheat. When my friends, because I have more energy than all my friends that I went to high school with, I keep in contact, we hang out, and they have no energy, and I feel like I'm cheating because I'm taking a little bit of testosterone, a little bit of thyroid, I pay attention to sleep, things like that. And I know my son, who's a gamer, I have a 15-year-old son that's a gamer, and they buy a cheat, they download it, makes their computer go faster. What are the top things, if you had to, maybe 3 or 4 things you can do to, be a cheat, like a longevity cheat or anti-aging cheat?
Right. Okay. So I'm happy to tell you that, but it's all grounded in the foundations of healthy living. Avoid toxins, get real food, get exercise. Okay. Now, to cheat on top of that, so let's go back to the example I gave of playing basketball. So I'm now playing basketball, again, with guys much younger than I am. So when you're doing intense exercise, you're putting a huge strain on your mitochondria. And if you don't protect your mitochondria, they will burn out and you won't have energy. So I'm very aggressive at nutrients that do two things with my mitochondria. Number one is make them work as efficiently as possible. And number two, protect them from oxidative stress as much as possible. So now, how do you make your mitochondria work better? Well, you've heard about medium chain fatty acids, so coconut oil. So the mitochondria are really happy about when you're consuming coconut oil, because those medium chain fatty acids go right into mitochondria and are very effective
so
at producing.
MCT, that's what that stands for.
Very effective at increasing mitochondrial ATP production. Okay, not a real simple thing to do. The other part is protecting the mitochondria from oxidative stress. The most important molecules for doing that is glutathione. And the best way to increase your glutathione levels is by taking N-acetylcysteine or by taking topical glutathione.
That'll be NAC on the bottle?
NAC, so N-acetylcysteine or NAC for short.
Okay.
500 milligrams twice a day is what I do. I've been doing it for, 30 years now. Okay. Next is coenzyme Q10. I take 100 milligrams of coenzyme Q10 every day, because what does coenzyme Q10 do? Coenzyme Q10 transports high energy electrons through the mitochondria to produce all the energy. And that's one of the reasons why people who take statin drugs end up with muscle pain and being tired, because statin drugs decrease the production of coenzyme Q10. Okay, so CoQ10 is incredibly important. Next are the mixed tocopherols. So I'm not just saying the alpha tocopherol, which everybody takes. You have to do all the tocopherols, because that's what the body needs. As a matter of fact, gamma tocopherol is much more protective than alpha tocopherol. So you need to get them as close.
So what is it sold under? I mean, what kind of a supplement?
Called mixed tocopherols.
Okay.
It's pure and simple. But get them where you have more gamma than anything else. Because there's 8 different tocopherols, and the gamma is the most important for human physiology, as near as I can tell at this point.
Okay.
I can keep going if you want.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you about bioidentical hormones. Where does Bastyr University stand on bioidentical hormones when indicated?
Well, I think that's exactly right. Where indicated, they're appropriate. Okay. But again, we're talking about physiological dosages of natural hormones, not huge dosages to make you a big, powerful bodybuilder and to get all the side effects. So I believe in those, but really low dosages, just enough to facilitate, not enough to take over everything.
Okay, and these cheats you think can make you live longer? These biological hacks?
So the question about living longer is a good question. I think with our current DNA, 120 is pretty much what we're limited to. Now, some people live a little longer than that, but that's pretty much what it is. So what I say to people, it's not so much about lifespan, it's about health span. So my preference is to live really healthy to around maybe about 110, then everything fall apart at once. You know, just, okay, everything's working great, okay, I'm done, bye.
Now with energy, because look, I could speak for a lot of people, but, I've been doing my show, The Wellness Hour, for 18 years, right? And when I look back, when people used to say, 15 years, Randy, you work harder than anybody I know. Mm-hmm. I don't have the energy I did back then.
Sure.
I'm slowly getting it back with some of these detoxing things. But do you think you can get it back? And do you feel like you have much more get up and go drive, mojo than other guys 70 years old?
Oh, I'll tell you, that's for sure. I rarely run across people who keep up with me, intellectually, physically, whatever. So I think it makes a big difference. So am I as energetic and vitally healthy as I was when I was 30 years old? No. Okay. But when I compare myself to other people my age, there's little comparison.
Okay, so if somebody, I know it's hard to put a number on this, but somebody in their 50s, male, female, who, they've tried to eat clean their whole life, but they maybe have ignored this part. Mm-hmm. Do you think you could give them 10 times the energy? 30% more energy? If they detoxed all this stuff out of their life?
I don't know if I can put a factor on it, but I can say dramatic difference. So where you're no longer having the everyday aches and pains, you're no longer developing the diabetes and heart disease and Alzheimer's and such, we can stop that whole process and get you back to a much higher level of health.
Okay, now you quoted a doctor. Get in what they need. You said you were at a lecture 10 years ago.
My good friend, Dr. Sid Baker.
What is that quote?
Okay, so as Sid said very effectively, said, all the medicine is really quite simple. Get into each person what they uniquely need and get out of each person what they uniquely do not need. So it's recognizing that everybody has to have a good foundation of nutrition and detoxification, but each of us is biochemically unique. We're all very, very different. And so for one person, they may need a lot more of a vitamin than somebody else does. My wife, for example, every woman in her family died from complications from osteoporosis. She was losing bone despite everything we could do. Then we did a genetic test on her and realized that she had a vitamin D receptor site deficit, and we had to give her 14,000 units of vitamin D a day forever, okay? And doing that, she went from losing bone to now she's recalcified her bones to before she went through menopause. Okay, so biochemical uniqueness. But also the same thing about toxins. Some people are much more susceptible to toxins than other people. You may remember way back in the 60s, seeing a magazine ad about this guy who's 102 years old, smoking a cigarette and saying, I've been smoking a cigarette since I was 5 years old. They never hurt me.
Yeah.
Well, he had the right genetics. It didn't hurt him. Someone else can be in the same room as a smoker and increase the risk of lung cancer. So we have huge genetic variation in our ability to get rid of toxins. As a matter of fact, you might say we have in our population what you might call the yellow canaries. That is the people who are most easily damaged by these toxins, and they're at kind of the forefront of telling us what we have to be aware of.
Can you reverse those people? Can you build up their immune system to the point?
Yes, you can reverse them, but they're much more difficult to do. Much more difficult.
Okay, good. So healthy people should read the book.
If you want
unhealthy people?
If you want to stay healthy, read the book, keep the toxins out, and if you're sick, don't focus so much on the disease. I mean, conventional medicine has done a lot of miraculous things for our world, so let's let them do the miraculous things, saving your life. But for everyday health, you got to do the foundational things. You got to get the toxins out, you got to get the nutrients in. So I say to people, I don't care what disease name you have, let's get your body working properly. Now, and once everything's working properly, let's see what disease is left over. And most of the patients, when you get things working properly by doing the foundational things, they get so much better.
Okay, good. Well, what's the hardest thing that you have? I guess you don't see only, special patients, right. But what's the hardest thing for you to get people to believe or latch on to?
Making the first step to eating healthfully. So what I'm now saying to people, okay, I put you on this whole 9-week program. It sounds really complex and it sounds intimidating. Okay, I'll tell you what, just for 2 weeks, just eat the way I want you to for 2 weeks. And people are really addicted to what foods they eat. It's very, very hard to get people to change their diet. So I start right there. You got to change your diet. If you're not willing to change your diet, not willing to get rid of the foods that are damaging your body, there's not going to be a lot I can do for you.
Okay, good. So you look, because more and more medical doctors are slowly going this way, yes. Still not being taught, I understand, in medical schools, but look for a naturopathic physician, licensed by, a real one. Right? How do you know if they're real or not?
Oh, so 20 states now license naturopathic doctors. So it means you have to go through accredited school, you have to take a national board, and you have to be approved by the state. So if you want to go see a naturopathic doctor, go to somebody who's licensed. And of course, one of my graduates from Bastyr is best because I taught them, but there are many good doctors in the world. But also more and more medical doctors are basically losing faith with conventional medicine. They're tired of giving patients drugs for symptoms, and they're saying, I got into medicine because I wanted to help people be healthy, and I want to really cure them, not just be a drug pusher. And so more and more of them are becoming integrated medicine doctors, functional medicine doctors, and I'm honored to say many of them buy my books. So I have a book called The Textbook of Natural Medicine that I co-authored with one of my graduates, Dr. Michael Murray. The first edition was published in 1985. We're now working on the 5th edition. 100,000 copies have been sold worldwide, and at least in the US, there's only 5,000 naturopathic doctors. Most of my books are being bought by medical doctors who want to become integrated medicine MDs or functional medicine MDs because they're realizing they want to understand why people are sick and how to become healthy, not just drugs for symptoms.
Behind your back and in front of you, they say this is the godfather of functional medicine, alternative medicine, natural medicine.
Okay, if you want to give me a title, I like to title Father of Science-Based Natural Medicine. Okay, I didn't create integrated medicine. I didn't create functional medicine. I helped them evolve, but I wouldn't call myself the father of those. But science-based natural medicine, I coined the term.
But you are. I mean, you started it. You organized it to get accreditation for medical schools to teach this stuff.
Yes. No.
So you are the godfather of this.
From the natural medicine perspective, from the credible natural medicine perspective, before Bastyr University, no school of natural medicine had ever been accredited by federal agencies anywhere in the world.
Wow.
And I realized that for this body of knowledge to go forward, we had to do credible education. We had to do good quality research. We had to publish modern textbooks. We had to do it right. And so Bastyr did it right, and that's why we're so successful.
Okay, good. I want to thank you for coming on the show. Great stuff.
Oh, great meeting you.
Pleasure. So they can go, do you have a blog or anything? I mean, the newsletter?
So my Twitter account is Dr. Pizzorno, DrPizzorno, And my website is the Toxin Solution, and I have all kinds of resources for people there. If you buy the book through that website, it'll give you access to all these tools I developed to help people just understand their unique biochemistry and what they uniquely need to become healthy.
Okay.
Everybody's different. So what you need and what I need are different. So how do you figure that out? Well, I've been developing tools to help people figure that out.
Okay, good. I want to thank you for coming to the show. Great info. I know you could talk all day on this. For days and days. I guess you could talk for a couple of years on this topic.
Actually, I do.
Right. So anyway, thanks again. Great stuff.
Great, thanks.
You've been watching the Wellness Hour, news that makes you healthier. For now, I wish you good health.